Hello everybody, and welcome to a live stream where I'm hopefully highlighting some of the orchids in our fields. And I'm just starting with a brief glimpse of the orchid which I use to promote it on my posts, which is the bee orchid. I should also mention that has been appalling the last few days. It's been pouring down, and I was worried that it would be too rainy to do this, but it's not great weather, but it's quite misty sunshine. And unfortunately, the rain that we've had hasn't really filled up the pond enormously. The pond levels are still quite low at the moment, but at least there is water in the pond. So, back to the first orchid, which is a nice little bee orchid. This species is fairly common in Britain, mainly southern Britain, and it can turn up anywhere, and this was the first orchid that turned up in our fields, and it tends to move around quite a bit, so I don't think we've had it in this spot before. There's a few places where it's quite regular, but on the whole it tends to turn up for a few years in one spot and then move on to another spot. It's a good mimic of a bee, and in fact it does fool a male bee into thinking it's a female, and so he tries to come and mate with it and get some pollen applied to his back, and then after he's realized that it's a waste of time, he moves on to another flower and deposits the pollen so it pollinates it. Unfortunately, in Britain we don't have the appropriate bees, so we don't have any of the right species of bee for it to be pollinated. So in Britain, most of it's either through vegetative spread or through self-pollination. I don't know whether I'll be able to show the pollen, but it's just under that green lip on the flower. So a few yards further down is our next orchid species, and the next orchid species is this one, which is the Pyramidal Orchid. And the Pyramidal Orchid is so named because when it's starting to flower like this and some of the lower flowers are coming out, it's very pyramid shaped, which is quite distinctive amongst the orchids. It's quite widespread again, but usually likes chalky soils. Here I may well go back to our main field where we have lots and lots of them. This is the first time it's turned up in this particular area, which, as I say, is only a few yards from the bee orchid. When there's lots of them, it does look quite impressive. This one just goes for standard pollination by insects. We quite often see some of the burnet moths on it. And next is one of the commonest orchids, but actually it's our rarest orchid here. For a long time we only had one of them, and then that second one turned up, and then this is a new one, and this is the common spotted orchid, so called because, as you can see, its leaves are very spotty, but its flowers are really quite impressive. I think they all have a different pattern, and there's a lot of variability in how pale they are. This can be really difficult to identify from similar species because there is so much variability. But this is really quite a beautiful little orchid, and it's the common spotted orchid. Again, so this is only a few yards away from the pyramidal I've just shown you, which was a few yards away from the bee orchid, and fortunately it does seem to be spreading, so hopefully we're doing something right in the management of the land here. I will quickly show you the very first orchid that came up our land. It's not flowering at the moment, but it's just down here, and it's a common spotted orchid that hopefully you can see all the spotted leaves. The flowering spike is just about coming up. There's the flowering spike just down there, so that'll take another week or so before it really flowers. This area's got a little bit shaded at the moment, so I have been trying to cut it back a bit to open up. So they briefly are the 3 orchid species that we have here. Oh, hello Garima. Thank you for coming. I'll just briefly, I'm showing the orchids again. This is the common spotted orchid, which I'm hoping will be in focus. So that's the common spotted orchid with spotted leaves, hence its name. And then just down here is our pyramidal orchid. You can clearly see how pyramidal it is. It's very pyramid shaped at the moment. When all the flowers come out, it becomes much more tube shaped. And then just a few steps further along, it's back to our old bee orchid, which is just down here. So that's the 3 species of orchid that we have in our fields. I do keep hoping we might get some more, and there are some potentials which might turn up. I can also show you, oh, there's a harlequin ladybird larva on the birch tree. I did find today another pyramidal orchid coming up, which is much paler than the other ones. It's very pale. It might be so pale because it's in the shade of this birch tree, which seeded itself a few years ago and has grown quite well. But this is on the edge of what is really quite a nice patch of greater bird's-foot trefoil, which hasn't quite started to flower yet. I was going to go round and have a look at a larger patch of pyramidal orchids which first came out this year. I don't think I'd seen them in this area before. Oh, and there's Monty. Hello Monty. I think he's getting bored with me at the moment. Oh, hello, more friends turning up on the chat. Thank you for coming. I hope you like our orchids. This is just coming through. So this area was grazed by Ebony, our cow, right in the early spring, and this is the first time these orchids have come up. So we've got a load of pyramidal orchids in very different size and shape. This one's beginning to flower a little bit more, and some more. That's a very tiny one down there, and another one over here. So there's about 10 orchids in this small area, and these are all pyramidal orchids, which, as I say, is what our commonest one. The other thing that's down here for comparison, which a lot of people get confused, this purplish one is actually not an orchid, it's a self-heal. It's a type of mint. But when you see the field with the orchids and the self-heal nearby, it's easy to see how from a distance you can confuse them. There's a nice pyramidal orchid. And there's a few more. There's a very tall pyramidal orchid somewhere around here, but I probably won't be able to find it now. So there's really quite a tall one there. That again is fairly pale. It's in amongst a rose bush. So all of these orchids are probably our commonest orchids in Britain. I'm aware that a lot of people watching this won't be from Britain, so they won't be quite so familiar with these species. We're on chalky clay soils here, which does dictate what we have. Oh, there's a whole load of Oxeye daisy. Oh, and the first greater knapweed is coming out. There's a nice greater knapweed. We only have a few of those. We have a lot more of the black or common knapweed, but the first greater knapweed is coming out. The old teasel from last year, which I never know whether I should get rid of, because I think the goldfinches are finished using them now. But back through into the main meadow, which Monty's already gone through into the main meadow. He's disappearing off. He wants to go and have some food, I think. So this is where the orchids, the pyramidal orchids, first appeared, and you can see some coming up through the bird's foot trefoil. Oh, Garima, that wasn't a thistle. It's a closely related knapweed. They're like thistles, but they don't have any spikes on their leaves. The thistles don't seem to be flowering just yet. We've got plenty of thistles, but they're not flowering just yet. A cluster of pyramidal orchids here, and another one down here in amongst the oxeye daisies and the bird's foot trefoil. Lots of bird's foot trefoil in this field, and these were the first ones that I noticed coming up, but they're quite late in flowering. So this is what they look like, the pyramidal orchids before they start flowering. Quite strange sort of cone shaped things. So they'll be flowering quite soon. And what's nice on the bird's foot trefoil, I can just hear, last year in Britain it was a terrible year for bees because it was so wet and we didn't get any bees at all really a lot of the time. But I can just hear a constant hum here of all the bumblebees on the bird's foot trefoil, including these red-tailed bumblebees, which were almost non-existent last year. So here's some more of the orchids just coming out. They'll be flowering soon. And a view across all the bird's foot trefoil. I did cheat with the bird's foot trefoil. I planted a few plants about sort of 6-7 years ago, and it's done quite well. It does like the soil around here, so it's done really well. I'm going to see if I can show. Oh, I don't know whether you can hear the noise. The farmer's decided to do something with the field next door. I don't quite know what he's doing, but he would pick now to come and work in the field with his tractor. So coming down here is the main area where the bee orchids are. Strangely this year all the bee orchids seem to be really quite small and stunted. I don't quite know why that is, but might have been weather conditions. But that's quite a nice little bee orchid. And that should grow taller. There's one just coming out there, just beginning to come out. There's another one just here that's come out sheltered in amongst the bird's foot trefoil. So as I said earlier, the bee orchids in Britain, the appropriate bee to pollinate them isn't found here. So they're mainly self-pollinating, these ones. And this is our biggest stretch of bee orchids. There's another one down there. There's usually some more. There's another one over here. Certainly last year we had about 30 or 40 bee orchids in this section. Might have even been more. I haven't counted this year because it's quite difficult to find some of them. They're tucked in amongst all the bird's foot trefoil. I can see another one down there. If I can find it. Not sure. This is a nice bird's foot trefoil for you. Ah, there's the bee orchid. So yeah, they're all hidden away in the bird's foot trefoil, so that it's quite hard to count them this year. As is the pyramidal orchids are all hidden in the bird's foot trefoil. but they seem to be shooting out through the top and getting quite tall, whereas the bee orchids are right on the edges of the birdsfoot trefoil and are really quite short and stunted. Oh, that's an early meadow brown just down there. I think it's a male meadow brown. They haven't long come out, the meadow browns here, only for the last week or so, although that one looks a bit faded. It doesn't really come out very well on this film, I don't think. Where are we going next? Oh, down here there's a patch of lady's bedstraw somewhere. There's me lady's bedstraw. Ah, there's the lady's bedstraw. This hasn't quite come out into flower yet, so it probably doesn't look very attractive, but it'll have nice little yellow flowers. It's called lady's bedstraw because when it's dried it has a very pleasant smell and it's very soft. So they used to put it into ladies' bedding in the Middle Ages so that it was pleasant for them to sleep on. I think the men got a bit more rough stuff than that, but the ladies were treated quite well. Oh, that's nice to see. There's the beginnings of one of the scabiouses coming up, so that'll flower in another week or so, and that attracts lots of insects, the scabious. Oh, the chiff-chaff's singing away to me there, and there's the robin. Oh, there's a little pyramidal orchid. Oh, there's a group of pyramidal orchids here. There's the main one flowering, and there's 3 more coming up down there. That's one of the nice things. Every time you wander through, you find some new ones coming up. And this is this year's teasel coming up. There's the teasel. It's not flowered yet. It'll have a pinkish flower around the base. It's a very interesting plant, very spiky, and it collects water in the bases between the leaves, which often you find drowned insects in. I'm never quite sure whether the plant utilises those drowned insects or whether it's just coincidence, byproduct. Ah, there's a nice little micro moth on the teasel. Quite like that micro moth. Where else? I always aim for this to be quite a short little live section, so I probably won't stay around too much longer. We might go and say hello to Ebony before we go, the cow, because Ebony grazes this area in the autumn, and that's why this area does so well, is because of Ebony's grazing. She comes in and completely levels this area and keeps out all the invasive scrub that tries to come in, and that's why we have such diverse plant growth around here. It's all thanks to her grazing it all. What I like as well, which probably won't come out here, but there's lots of yellow meadow ant nests. This is a yellow meadow ant nest here, which supposedly is a sign of ancient meadows, but we started grazing this area about 15 years ago, and within about 2 or 3 years we started getting some anthills, and we've got loads of anthills now, and they're very prominent. The green woodpecker loves them, and there you can see a dug up ant nest. Something's been feasting on those ants. Oh, there's a honeybee down here. We don't get lots of honeybees. It's visiting these plantains. There it is. There's the honeybee. But these ants' nests are very popular with the woodpeckers. The green woodpecker comes and feeds quite extensively on these ant nests. Oh, is that a just for Garima? There is a thistle just beginning to flower with a ladybird on it, a harlequin ladybird. This is our hornbeam hedge with the robin singing away in it. I don't know if this is our common buckthorn that I planted for the brimstone butterfly caterpillars, which normally we have loads, but I haven't seen many this year. But there was certainly some eggs on this earlier on in the year, so I don't know if there's any caterpillars around. You can usually tell from these leaves, like here, where they're chewed away, and then the caterpillar usually sits in the midriff. But I haven't seen many caterpillars this year. There were quite a few brimstone butterflies about. They're bright yellow, and the male is much brighter yellow than the female. So I just got distracted by a scorpion fly that was in this hornbeam hedge. So there are quite a few vetches I can see around here. I can also hear the blue tit family is obviously feeding. They're very noisy at the moment. We had lots in our nest boxes this year. I do bird ringing. We ringed in one box. There were 12 chicks in the box. So we'll just go into one of the fields which we graze throughout the summer. Oh, there's the woodpecker. Green woodpecker's just flying off. I don't know whether you caught it sound. A nice yaffle. Beautiful yaffle from our green woodpecker. It's probably getting towards the time where it'll bring its family into the garden to feed on those ants. Oh, there's Ebony. So these three small fields here we just graze through the summer. And there's Ebony. She's not very interested in saying hello, I don't think. Ebony! Ebony! No, she's more interested in eating the hedge, which she can do, but we're quite happy with her eating the hedge in this field because she keeps it nice and trim. That's the hedge which borders our little orchard area. We've occasionally had the odd orchid in these fields, but we don't usually get them. Although the fields are getting a lot more diverse at the moment, a lot more vegetation in them. Even some buzzfoot trefoil spreading into here. And these fields tend to have a lot of self-heal in them. So self-heal down here. And some hawkbit or something. I think that's a hawkbit. Oh, that's 24 minutes. I wasn't expecting to be videoing for quite so long. What I might well do is just nip back and we'll do some closing videos of the 3 orchid species just to end the video. So I need to come across the meadow area with all the buzzfoot trefoil and the meadow ant nests, which might have been what the green woodpecker was after, these meadow ant nests. The ant nests make it challenging to walk quickly over this field though. Got quite a bit of field bindweed in this area. So I'm going to very quickly and briefly let's say goodbye to one of the pyramidal orchids. That's one of those pyramidal orchids, and I'm going to nip down to the area by the pond and just have lasting shots of the 3 orchids, which was the whole reason for doing this. So I'm going to come down and see the 3 orchids, and then I'll close. There's our pond. Not many dragonflies about at the moment. It's probably not sunny enough for them yet. Our little alder area. A nice load of alders here. And we come down through here into this flat open area. Oh well, there's quite a nice patch of red clover here, which sadly in Britain doesn't seem to be doing quite so well with red clover. We've got a nice big patch here. And we will finish with a bee orchid. Nice bee orchid. And then a few steps further down, pyramidal orchid. And then finally the star of the show, the common spotted orchid. So you can see the spotty leaves and the pink flowers with a lot of intricate detailing on the lower petal. Oh, there's even a fly visiting the orchid at the moment. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye and thank you for watching.